In New York on 2nd Avenue in 1965, they advertised the meetings with a flyer that said, "Stay high forever." That's natural. That's what we have in Boston and New Orleans, Montreal, Sydney, Melbourne, London, and Paris. But some or other, due to Krishna's good mercy, this one festival here in Los Angeles is the biggest one in the Western countries, and that is all due to the hard work and the inspiration of one person I'd like to present to you. His Divine Grace, Srila Rameshwar Swami Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. First of all, I'd like to ask all of our friends and guests to please find a seat anywhere on the lawn. Make yourself very comfortable, because we have a wonderful afternoon of very incredible entertainment for you. And in case any of you are feeling hungry or thirsty, we are going to be bringing... I'd like to explain very briefly the actual purpose of this festival. This is the 6th year in Los Angeles that we've held this festival. This is not an ordinary festival. Of course, from the cultural point of view, this is a festival which is celebrating Indian culture, not American Indians, but the culture of ancient India, East India. And you might ask, why are Americans celebrating Indian culture? Because everyone has a stereotype conception that Indian culture means the caste system and so many other ideas that have been learned in schools and so on. We're not celebrating the caste system. When we talk about celebrating Indian culture, we're talking about the oldest and most profound spiritual knowledge anywhere in the world. Spiritual knowledge that has been developed over thousands and thousands of years by great spiritual masters, great yogis, great mystics, great sages, great philosophers. It is actually a very joyous culture because it celebrates the eternality of life. Of course, the living being, the self, the real self, we are different from our bodies. When our bodies no longer function, we continue to exist. The self, the life force in our body, or in the body of an animal, or in the body of a bird, or in the body of a tree, never dies. The body may cease to function and the life force will move on, but it never ceases to exist. So Indian culture celebrates this important truth, the eternality of all life. Every living being possesses a spiritual self, a spiritual spark, a soul. Even the birds, even the grass, the animals, the trees, the fish, the humans, anything that is alive because of the presence of this spiritual spark. To know this truth and to understand what is this spiritual self, what does it look like? How is it that it is eternal, it never dies? Where does it go after the body is finished? This knowledge is the most important knowledge for human beings to learn. And Indian culture celebrates the eternality of the self, the opulence and beauty of the self, the liberation of the self. Inspired some of the greatest men in the history of the world, like Einstein. Great philosophers and scientists have studied the literatures and philosophy of India. In fact, you'll be surprised to learn that some of our American presidents were also influenced and studied very deeply the ancient Indian literatures in whatever form they were available in America 200 years ago. Some of the founding fathers of this country, like John Adams, our second president, and Thomas Jefferson, were quite aware of the teachings from ancient India. So we have all kinds of spiritual literatures which are being passed out today free of charge. In fact, this whole festival is free of charge. And the reason this festival is free is not only so that people can have a very easy opportunity to become familiar with this spiritual knowledge and this spiritual experience, but because if you look at it objectively, you couldn't calculate or put a price how valuable this experience of the self, this spiritual knowledge is. We spend $25,000, or some people do, for a Rolls Royce. People spend $100,000, $150,000 for a house, a place to sleep. What is the price? Which enables us to experience the spiritual ecstasies that God wants us to experience, that God creates for liberated souls. You couldn't put a price on it. That's why this festival is free. This is the opposite principle of the material culture. In the material culture, propaganda and all the advertising, and look at ourselves, objectively, we'll come to understand that all these messages, the latest toothpaste, the latest fashion, the latest movie, this is not bringing us in touch with our eternal self. This is not giving us ecstasy. This is not making us liberated. This is not really the path to happiness. So we have to look in another direction, festival, to enable all of us to come together and collectively share an incredible spiritual experience where we can all look in another direction for a few hours of our life and experience what it really means, according to the great mystics, the great yogis, the great spiritual masters of this human society, this worldwide human family, what it really means according to the masters, those who are self-realized masters.
By lost children who are brought to the main stage. Lost children, the place for them, if you're lost or you're looking for someone who's lost, go to the folk booth there, F-O-L-K, the folk booth. That is acting as an information booth this year. One aspect of God which is often overlooked is the aspect of God is the enjoyer. After all, you like to enjoy, I like to enjoy. In fact, if there's a common denominator, even, let's just speak, this common denominator is not even limited to the human family, but we find a propensity, even if all home tonight and it quiets down, the ants are going to come out, and they're going to eat the sweet ball juice, and they're going to get into the milk sweets, and they're going to have a good time. That propensity is there in every living being. We all want to enjoy. But we don't necessarily know the proper way to enjoy or how to enjoy. But enjoyers we are.
She didn't know.
The question might arise, from where did we get this propensity? Every living being, every being that has life wants energy. Does it exhaust me? No, in fact, we just don't even, it's so insignificant we don't even take it into consideration.